There is a brutal truth most people never say out loud. You are not losing control of your life because life is too hard. You are losing control because too many people, too many systems, and too many invisible pressures have learned how to hijack your mind before you even notice it happening. They do not need chains. They do not need prison walls. They do not need to destroy you in public. They only need your reaction. Your panic. Your insecurity. Your constant need to fix what was never yours to control in the first place. And once they have that, your life no longer belongs to you. Maybe you know this feeling more intimately than you want to admit. You wake up in the morning already tense. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is racing. A message from work. A bill you forgot. A conversation that felt strange yesterday. A family problem you still do not know how to solve. You check your phone for 2 minutes and somehow your nervous system is already in a fight you never agreed to enter. Then the day begins. Someone sends an email with the wrong tone and your chest tightens. A careless comment from a friend echoes in your head longer than it should. Traffic feels personal. Silence feels threatening. One unexpected expense turns into a spiral about your future. One bad afternoon becomes evidence, in your mind, that your whole life is slipping away. From the outside, you look functional. You go to work. You answer texts. You show up. You smile when necessary. You keep moving. But inside, something feels wrong. It feels like you are sitting in the driver's seat of your own life with your hands hovering over the wheel, while something else keeps jerking the car in different directions. That is the modern crisis nobody teaches you how to name. Most people are not physically trapped. They are psychologically occupied. Their mood is controlled by news cycles. Their peace is controlled by notifications. Their self-worth is controlled by how they are perceived. Their actions are controlled by emotion, fear, and invisible social pressure. And the most dangerous part is this: after a while, it starts to feel normal. This is where modern society lies to you. It tells you that control comes from accumulation. More money. More status. More influence. More approval. More optimization. More productivity systems. More hacks. More confidence tricks. More polished routines. More external leverage. The message is always the same. If you can just arrange the outer world correctly, your inner world will finally settle down. But what if that is the trap? What if the reason so many people feel exhausted is not because they are weak, but because they have been taught to chase control in places where control does not exist? What if the world rewards your confusion because a person who cannot govern himself is easy to provoke, easy to manipulate, easy to sell to, easy to frighten, and easy to keep dependent? This is where Stoicism becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Because over 2,000 years ago, long before social media, long before corporate anxiety, long before the theater of modern identity, the Stoics saw the mechanism clearly. Marcus Aurelius saw it from the top of an empire. Epictetus saw it from the bottom, in chains. One wore the crown. The other wore the scars of slavery. And somehow both arrived at the same conclusion. The person who cannot command his own mind will never command his life. And the person who does command his own mind cannot easily be ruled by the world. That is what this video is about. Not 10 habits. Not motivational slogans. Not another fantasy about becoming invincible by pretending not to feel. This is about rebuilding the inner architecture of your life around 3 Stoic rules so fundamental that once you truly live them, the chaos outside you stops having the same access to your soul. And stay with me, because the third rule is where most people fail. It is also the one that separates those who talk about discipline from those who quietly become unshakable. By the end of this video, you will see why most people remain trapped in cycles of stress, overreaction, and inconsistency, and why the way out is far simpler and far harsher than modern culture wants you to believe. If any part of you is tired, truly tired, of feeling emotionally owned by circumstances, then this is for you. Let's begin. Rule 1: ruthlessly separate what is yours from what never was. The first reason you feel out of control is not mysterious. It is misdirected energy. You are spending your emotional life trying to manage things that do not belong to you. And that drains a person in ways sleep cannot fix. Think about how much of your mind is occupied, every week, by things you do not actually command. What people think about you. Whether someone misunderstood your intention. How a conversation from 3 years ago could have gone differently. What the economy might do. What your boss might mean. Whether your partner will change. Whether your children will make the choices you want for them. Whether the future will reward your effort. Whether people will appreciate your sacrifices. Most people live like this every day. They wake up and immediately begin mentally negotiating with the uncontrollable. They rehearse. They predict. They defend themselves against events that have not happened. They try to decode faces, tones, silences, probabilities, outcomes. They carry entire worlds on their shoulders that were never theirs to carry. And then they wonder why they feel heavy all the time. Epictetus saw this with terrifying clarity. He said freedom begins when you learn to distinguish what is up to you and what is not. That sounds simple until you try to live it. Because the human ego hates this rule. It hates being told that other people's opinions are not under its command. It hates being told that outcomes are uncertain. It hates being told that love cannot guarantee loyalty, effort cannot guarantee success, and worry cannot purchase security. But this is exactly where your life begins to come back to you. You must draw a line so clear in your own consciousness that it becomes almost sacred. On one side of that line is what is actually yours. Your judgment. Your interpretation. Your response. Your values. Your effort. Your honesty. Your discipline. Your character. That is your territory. Small territory, yes. But real territory. And within it, your authority can become absolute. On the other side is everything else. People's reactions. People's loyalty. People's moods. The market. The weather. The timing of life. The past. Aging. Illness. Delays. Misunderstandings. Public opinion. The shifting emotional weather of the world. That is not your kingdom. And the moment you treat it like it is, you begin losing yourself. This is where the Machiavellian layer of reality becomes important. Because society is full of people who benefit when you do not understand this distinction. Some people provoke because your reaction makes them feel powerful. Some systems overwhelm because your confusion makes you easier to control. Some environments train you to obsess over optics because a person obsessed with appearances never develops substance. Some relationships keep you unstable on purpose because a stable person is much harder to manipulate. Not every chaos in your life is accidental. Not every emotional trap is innocent. Sometimes the game is simply this: keep a person externally fixated, and they will never become internally dangerous. That is why this first rule is not passive. It is not soft. It is not about letting go in some vague decorative sense. It is strategic severance. The ruthless amputation of the external. When panic rises in you, ask one question immediately. Is this fully within my direct control? Not influence. Not preference. Not fantasy control. Direct control. If the answer is no, you do not keep feeding it with your soul. You stop gripping it. You stop worshiping it. You stop giving your nervous system away to it. This does not mean you become indifferent to life. It means you stop bleeding into places where your energy can do no useful work. Imagine a man at work. He spends the whole afternoon obsessing over whether his manager respects him. He replays a meeting. Studies every facial expression. Builds stories. Feels insulted. Feels overlooked. Feels angry. Feels smaller by the hour. Now compare that man to another man in the exact same office who asks a harder question. What part of this is mine? Not his manager's opinion. Not the politics of the room. Not the hidden motives of other people. What is his? The quality of his work. The clarity of his communication. The steadiness of his presence. The standards he refuses to betray. One man gives away power all day. The other consolidates it. Or think about a woman lying awake at 2 a.m., worrying about what her relatives think of her life choices. She imagines their judgment. She argues with them in her head. She tries to control their narrative about her. But those minds are not hers. Those stories are not hers. That perception is not hers. What is hers is whether she lives truthfully. Whether she keeps her integrity. Whether she lets borrowed opinions become self-hatred. Do you see the difference? One life is lived in emotional trespassing. The other is lived in sovereign alignment. This rule will feel brutal at first because you will realize how much of your suffering has come from trying to manage weather. And yes, it can feel almost surreal when you first wake up to it. You begin to notice how much of modern life is built like a hallucination. Everyone performing certainty. Everyone managing image. Everyone trying to control how they are seen. Everyone exhausted from trying to govern a stage play that keeps changing its script. And in the middle of that false theater, Stoicism says, withdraw your soul from what is not yours. That is where peace begins. That is where power begins. That is where life starts to feel inhabitable again. When you stop trying to control the outer storm, you recover the strength to command the inner fortress. And once that strength comes back to your hands, everything changes. Rule 2: master the pause before the world enters you. The average person believes he is thinking. Most of the time, he is only reacting. A stimulus appears, and his entire inner world lurches forward automatically. Someone criticizes him, and he fires back. A delay happens, and irritation takes over. A text goes unanswered, and anxiety starts writing stories. An uncomfortable task appears, and he reaches for distraction. A difficult truth confronts him, and ego builds a defense before reason even enters the room. This is not freedom. This is reflex. And a life ruled by reflex is one of the easiest things in the world to manipulate. If someone knows what offends you, they can move you. If someone knows what flatters you, they can steer you. If someone knows what scares you, they can own your attention. If a platform knows what agitates you, it can keep you engaged. If a toxic person knows your wounds, they can summon versions of you that you later barely recognize. This is why the second rule matters so much. Between what happens and what you do, there must be a pause. Not a dramatic pause. Not a performative pause. A real one. A space wide enough for your mind to return to itself. Viktor Frankl expressed this with unforgettable precision. Between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom. The Stoics understood this long before most modern people did. They knew that if you cannot inhabit that gap, your life will be governed by whatever strikes your nervous system hardest in the moment. And that is exactly how most people live. They do not choose. They discharge. They vent, explain, defend, react, justify, panic, overpromise, overshare, retaliate, withdraw, or collapse. Then later they say, that was not really me. But it was them. It was simply the version of them that had never learned to pause. This rule becomes especially important in a fake world. Because one of the oldest social games is this: provoke a reaction, then judge the reaction. Push someone. Trigger them. Corner them emotionally. Create confusion. Then when they erupt, point at the eruption as proof that they are unstable. This is not new. It happens in families. In relationships. In offices. Online. In friendships that quietly compete. In systems that benefit from outrage. That is why the pause is not weakness. The pause is counter-control. It is the moment you refuse to let another person, or another fear, write your behavior for you. Picture a simple scene. You are in a meeting. Someone cuts across you with that polished, half-civil tone people use when they want to diminish you without leaving fingerprints. The room goes quiet for half a second. You feel heat rise in your body. Your jaw tightens. Your mind generates 3 immediate responses, all sharp, all satisfying, all dangerous. In that moment, the untrained person reacts. He snaps. He gets sarcastic. He over-explains. He tries to reclaim status emotionally. And even if he wins the moment, he loses control of himself. But the trained person does something else. He freezes the impulse. He breathes once. He does not rush to defend his ego. He watches the anger rise like a wave and refuses to become the wave. He notices the feeling without kneeling to it. I am feeling anger. I am feeling humiliation. I am feeling urgency. But he does not say, I am anger. He does not say, I am humiliation. He does not say, this feeling gets to decide. That distinction changes everything. Because once you can observe an emotion without obeying it, you are no longer trapped inside it. That is where authorship returns. And this is not abstract philosophy. It is incredibly practical. The pause is what stops you from sending the email that poisons a relationship. It is what stops you from turning a misunderstanding into a war. It is what stops you from saying something true in the ugliest possible way. It is what stops you from making permanent decisions from temporary states. It also changes how people relate to you. When you stop reacting on cue, manipulators become uneasy. When you stop performing hurt instantly, bait loses effectiveness. When you stop scrambling to explain yourself, insecure people lose a handle on you. When you become difficult to provoke, you become difficult to control. And that creates a kind of silent authority the world can feel. Not loud dominance. Not theatrical coldness. Not fake alpha performance. Something rarer. A person whose emotions are alive, but not ruling. A person whose dignity is not available on demand. A person who cannot be emotionally conscripted into every passing conflict. This does not mean you suppress what you feel. That is another mistake. Stoicism is not deadness. It is disciplined consciousness. You are not trying to become numb. You are trying to become unowned. There is a huge difference. Numb people disappear from themselves. Stoic people return to themselves. So the next time your chest tightens, next time you feel insulted, next time fear surges and tries to rush you into immediate motion, remember this. The first battle is not outside. It is in the half-second where instinct demands obedience. Guard that space. Because if you lose the pause, you lose your freedom. And if you keep the pause, you keep the pen in your hand. Rule 3. Stop waiting to feel ready and become the kind of person who moves anyway. This is the rule that decides whether the first two become a way of life or just another set of ideas you admired for a week. Because even after you learn what is in your control, and even after you learn how to pause, there is still one final trap waiting for you. The trap is this. You still believe your feelings should lead. Modern culture worships emotion as if it were wisdom. It tells you to honor every mood, trust every impulse, and wait until your inner weather becomes cooperative before you act. So people wait. They wait to feel motivated before they train. They wait to feel confident before they speak. They wait to feel inspired before they build. They wait to feel less afraid before they change. They wait to feel more like themselves before they become themselves. And while they wait, life keeps moving. This is why so many intelligent people live inconsistent lives. They are not lacking understanding. They are lacking identity. Marcus Aurelius did not rise each morning because he was emotionally charged with enthusiasm. He rose because duty does not ask permission from mood. That is one of the hardest truths for modern ears to hear. You do not need a better feeling first. You need a stronger self-definition. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" you begin asking, "Who am I when life becomes inconvenient?" That question reveals everything. Anyone can act according to values when rested, admired, and in control. Anyone can be disciplined for 3 days when the energy is high. Anyone can be kind when they feel secure. Anyone can stay focused when nothing is tempting them away. The real identity is revealed when conditions turn against you. When the alarm rings and your body wants surrender. When the work is tedious. When no one is clapping. When progress is invisible. When the conversation is uncomfortable. When the result is delayed. When the loneliness of self-respect costs you social approval. That is where character becomes real. And this is where many people secretly betray themselves. They negotiate with weakness in elegant language. "I just need a better time. I'm under pressure right now. I'll start when things calm down. I know what to do, I'm just not in the right headspace. This week was unusual. I deserve to rest after everything I've dealt with." Sometimes rest is honest. Sometimes delay is wisdom. But very often, what sounds like self-compassion is actually self-abandonment wearing a softer voice. Machiavelli would understand this part immediately. Because weakness rarely announces itself as weakness. It arrives disguised as justification. It uses reason against you. It studies your desires, your fatigue, your vanity, your fear of discomfort, and then whispers in the language you are most likely to trust. That is why identity-driven action is so powerful. It cuts beneath negotiation. You do not get up early because every morning feels sacred and cinematic. You get up because you are the kind of person who keeps promises to yourself. You do not have the difficult conversation because you enjoy confrontation. You do it because your character does not permit avoidance to become destiny. You do not train, write, work, build, heal, or set boundaries because your emotions align perfectly. You do it because your standard exists whether your mood approves or not. This is not punishment. This is self-respect in action. Real discipline is not self-hatred. It is not a grim performance. It is not the denial of humanity. It is the refusal to let temporary feelings outrank permanent values. Think about the person who has told himself for years that he wants to change. Maybe it is his health. Maybe his finances. Maybe alcohol. Maybe anger. Maybe passivity. Maybe the quiet resentment of knowing he has been living beneath his own potential. He knows what to do. He has known for a long time. But each day he checks in with his feelings first. And his feelings are unstable. So his actions become unstable. And his self-trust erodes a little more. Now imagine the shift when that same person stops asking whether he feels like becoming reliable. Imagine he says, quietly, with no performance, "I do this because this is who I am now." Something changes at that moment. He is no longer trying to borrow motivation from tomorrow. He is building identity in the present. And every time he acts against comfort but in alignment with character, he lays another brick in the structure of his own respect. That structure matters more than people realize. Because self-respect is not built by affirmations. It is built by evidence. Evidence that you can trust yourself. Evidence that you can obey what is right even when it is hard. Evidence that discomfort does not immediately turn you into someone smaller. Evidence that fear does not always get the final vote. Over time, that evidence accumulates. And then one day you notice something subtle but extraordinary. You are less shaken by uncertainty. You are less needy for external validation. You are less seduced by excuses. You are less frightened by hard seasons. Why? Because you know something now that cannot be bought and cannot be gifted by the world. You know you can rely on yourself. That is what makes a person strong. Not the absence of fear. Not the absence of emotion. Not the absence of pain. But the presence of an internal standard that survives all three. And once you have that, the world changes shape. Difficulty still exists. Betrayal still exists. Stress still exists. Loss still exists. But helplessness begins to die. Because you no longer need perfect conditions in order to remain yourself. Bringing the three rules together. Now step back and look at what these three rules actually do when they are lived together. The first rule takes your energy back from the uncontrollable. The second rule takes your reactions back from impulse. The third rule takes your actions back from emotion. That is not just mindset improvement. That is personal sovereignty. You stop trying to control the weather and start governing the instrument through which you meet the weather. You stop reacting like a puppet and start responding like an author. You stop waiting for ideal feelings and begin acting from chosen identity. And something remarkable happens when all three begin working together. The world may still be chaotic, but it no longer enters you the same way. A betrayal hurts, but it does not define you. A delay frustrates you, but it does not own your whole day. A criticism stings, but it does not rewrite your worth. A hard morning does not automatically become a lost week. A wave of fear does not get to become your master. This is what real control looks like. Not controlling everyone. Not controlling outcomes. Not controlling fate. Controlling the one domain from which a human life is either ruined or redeemed. the inner seat of judgment, response, and action. And yes, this path is demanding, because it requires you to stop romanticizing your own chaos. It requires you to admit that some of your suffering has come from habits of thought you kept feeding. It requires you to face how often you have given your peace away cheaply. It requires you to stop blaming the world for every fracture that should have become training. But it also gives something back that no external success can replace. It gives you your center. And for many people, that is what they have truly been searching for all along. Not more stimulation. Not more intensity. Not more admiration. Just the quiet, almost forgotten experience of being inwardly solid. Of no longer being dragged around by everything. Of no longer negotiating with every fear. Of no longer waking up already psychologically defeated. There is a reason the Stoics still matter. It is not because they were ancient. It is because human weakness has not changed as much as technology has. The stage looks different now. The costumes are different. The distractions are faster. The manipulation is more refined. The theater is global. But the core struggle is the same. Will you govern yourself, or will the world do it for you? That is still the question. So let's make it plain. If you want to take control of your life, begin here. First, ruthlessly separate what is in your control from what is not. Stop pouring your soul into weather. Reclaim your energy from outcomes, perceptions, and events that were never yours to command. Second, master the pause between stimulus and response. Do not let provocation, panic, or wounded ego draft your behavior before reason arrives. Protect that inner space, because your freedom lives there. Third, act from identity, not mood. Stop waiting to feel ready. Build a standard stronger than emotion, and let your actions become evidence of who you choose to be. These rules are simple in wording. They are not simple in practice. They ask for lifelong honesty, lifelong discipline, lifelong self-observation. But they work. Not because they make life easy. Because they make you harder to break. So if your life has felt noisy lately, if your mind has felt crowded, if you have been carrying too much, reacting too quickly, and trusting your moods more than your values, then maybe this is the moment to stop searching for another external answer. Maybe what you need is not another hack. Maybe what you need is a return. A return to what is yours. A return to the pause. A return to the self you respect. The world will continue to test you. People will continue to project onto you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will bait you. Some will leave. Some seasons will not be fair. Let them come. You do not need a life without storms. You need a self that does not collapse every time the wind changes. That is the Stoic promise. Not comfort. Not illusion. Not escape. Strength with clarity. Calm with awareness. Discipline with dignity. And if you practice these 3 rules long enough, one day you will notice that the world has not become less chaotic. But you have become far less available to chaos. That is when your life starts to belong to you again. If this message met you at the right time, let me know in the comments, which of these 3 rules do you need most right now? If this video gave language to something you have been feeling for a long time, press like so more people can find it. And subscribe to StoicCraft if you want more videos that help you build real inner power in a world designed to scatter it. Until next time, stay grounded, stay disciplined, and guard your inner citadel.